Good afternoon, good afternoon, good afternoon. How is everybody doing? Welcome to the Loud Life Show. I am your host, Alvin Folks. We are on a journey for self help and for self awareness and self improvement. I am your host on this journey, and I'm happy to be here with you today. Before we get started, I just wanted to say thank you for all of the support that I've been getting from all of you, from all of the texts and emails that I've been getting from people who know me personally. And I appreciate all the support that I have gotten thus far with the Loud Life Show. Shout out to El Bravador for giving me this platform and for allowing me to have a show where my voice can be heard. I am so appreciative to him. I'm indebted to him. And I wanted to shout him out on this station and on this broadcast. So before I get started with everything, I wanted to kind of give you a little bit more background into me so that you could understand more so why I find this type of work important for me to do. I am a person who has always been a nurturer. I've always been trying to be motivational. I've always looked at people to see how they could improve and be their best selves because I've always wanted to do that too. And so my life has always led me to be able to not only try to do things that will help myself, but to also help other people. So that's where this idea was birthed. And I know a lot of people want to know how come I named this the Loud Life Show. Well, I will tell you that now. So the Loud Life came as a result of me in 2016 having one of the most challenging years of my entire life. In 2016, I lost my grandmother, my mother, and my aunt, who was basically my godmother, all within 8 weeks of each other. And within that same time frame, I also had a friend who passed away as a result of suicide. The artist Prince, who I have a very strong affinity to his music. His music was the soundtrack of my life. He passed away. So that whole first 6 months of 2016 was incredibly difficult for me. The second half of 2016, everything was totally different. So I was traveling a lot. I went to 7 different countries in that time span of the latter part, this last 6 months of 2016. And while I was doing that, I also visited some American cities as well. And as I was doing that, I coined a phrase. I said, I'm getting ready to go on Loud Life tour. And people were like, what is loud life? What is loud life? I said, well, I want to live my life as loud as possible. I want to do the things that I want to do on my terms. After you've lost so many people, you start realizing the fragility of life. You know that life is short. You know that life is mysterious. And I want to live my life to the fullest. I want to die living. I do not want to live to die. I know a lot of people who do that, who live to die. I don't want to be that person. I want to die living. So I want to do as much as I can, as fast as I can, whenever I can. So I began what was called the Loud Life World Tour. And I started in New York, and then I ended up going to London. I was in Hawaii. I went to Jamaica. I went to some European countries. Long story short, I did all of that. And then from that was birthed the whole idea of me getting people to understand what living a loud life is. So living a loud life is about you doing things that you want to do on your terms, doing things that you want to do based on your desires, your dreams, your goals, not doing it because somebody else is doing it, not doing it because somebody else told you that that's what you should be doing. You're doing these things because you want to do. Travel for me is a huge deal. So because travel for me is a huge deal, that's where I came up with the Loud Life World Tour. If travel is not your thing, then that's not your thing. Whatever it is that you want to do that makes your life loud, that you are living your life at the loudest decibel that you can, that's what the Loud Life is all about. So that's why I named this show the Loud Life Show, because we are going to continue to explore how you can do things that are going to augment and make you a better person so you can live your life louder. So you can go from living to die, if that is your situation, to die living, meaning that you're out here doing so much stuff. I've often said that I want to be doing so much and having so much going on that God has to tap me on my shoulder and say, son, it's time to go. And I go, okay, God, I'm ready. But hold on, let me go see this right quick. It's time to go. Okay, all right, I got you. But let me take this picture real quick. That's the way I want to live my life. I want to be moving. I want to be seeing as much as I can see, doing as much as I can do. So the last couple of shows, we talked about making a bucket list. We talked about owning your past and not letting somebody tell your own narrative. We've talked about all those things. So as we move forward, I thought it was important for you to understand why this show was called The Loud Life Show and what the Loud Life is. And we will delve more into that on future broadcasts as well. I will give you personal information about me in a future broadcast in terms of how you can contact me and that type of thing. So that's coming too. So just stay tuned. Keep tuning in to this time frame so that you can hear all of the wonderful things we're going to talk about, because it's all about how we can live our lives to the fullest extent of living. How we can look into ourselves to find what we need in order to live that life. So that's a great segue into what I wanted to talk about this week. So what I wanted to talk about this week was looking at you and doing two things: finding yourself, F-I-N-D, finding yourself, and defining yourself, D-E-F-I-N-E. Find and define. Now, here's a misnomer. A lot of people think because you live in your body that you know you better than anybody. And to a certain extent, that's true. But to another extent, there is a lot of things about you that you can learn about you. You don't know everything there is to know about you. Regardless to what you think, you do not know everything there is to know about you. Perfect example. You don't know whether or not you like certain foods until you try them. So you can't look at something and go, which is a pet peeve of mine. You can't look at some food and go, ooh, I don't like that. You don't know what you like until you try it. Once you try it, then you can go, ooh, I learned something new about myself. I don't like that. You can learn something new about yourself every day if you choose to. Most people don't choose to. They know what they know and they think that that is all there is to know. That is not true. That is a misnomer. But you have to take time to get to know you. Okay, so back to what I was talking about find and define. So in finding yourself, one of the things that I want to make clear to you is that sometimes we as people are lost and we don't even know it. And I'm going to use myself as an example because I have experienced this for myself. There has been times in my life where I didn't have my bearings straight. I didn't know who I was. I didn't know why I was made. Why did God make me? I didn't know why I was here. I didn't know what my purpose is. I didn't know what my mission was. I didn't know any of those things. And I was walking around lost. I spoke to you last week about me going through depression and grief and anger and anxiety and things like that. But a lot of that had to do with the fact that I was lost. I was just meandering through my own life, meandering around, walking around, no direction, no focus, no guidance. Even though I was making it appear that I had all of that together, I did not have all that together. I was really incredibly lost. And I had to find myself. When I say that, what I mean is I had to figure out where I was in my life. That's why I had to find me. I had to figure out where I was in my life before I could move forward. Where do you stand? Where are you in your life? So let me give you a quick story about finding me. So last year, I was in the midst of all of this that I was talking about earlier: depression, grief, anxiety, anger, fear, all of this. And I had an overwhelming urge to take a trip because I had not traveled since the pandemic, and I decided I needed to take a trip. So I took a trip to Tennessee. And I went to Tennessee, to Nashville. Had never been to Tennessee, had never been to Nashville. Went to Nashville and went on Memorial Day weekend of 2021. And explored it, had a great time, saw things I hadn't seen before, did things I hadn't done before, ate food I had never eaten before. It was great. But what I did not realize during that time, that I was searching for something. I was searching for me because I didn't know me. I didn't know where I was in my life. It was a very trying time for me. So, my first name is Alvin, and Alvin, like the chipmunk. And a lot of people assume that because my name is Alvin, that, you know, when you go places, go to amusement parks and things like that, go to attractions, and you find keychains and glasses and things like that, magnets, they may have your name on them. A lot of people assume that I can find my name because my name is Alvin. Well, I'm here to tell you that my entire life, I have looked for my name on things, and I have never found my name on anything. Anything. The only variation I have ever found in my life was Al, but I have never found anything in my life that said Alvin unless I had it made. So, this particular Sunday, while I was in Nashville, Tennessee, I was going around and checking out different sites, and I ended up in Willie Nelson's General Store. And I'm just walking around looking at all the stuff, looking for souvenirs. I collect shot glasses and magnets, and I buy souvenirs for my family and my friends. And so I'm looking for things. And I always look for my name, even though I never think I'm going to, see it anywhere. So I come around the corner and I find a penknife, these little pocket knives. And lo and behold, on one of the pocket knives was my name, Alvin. Alvin, spelled out on the name, carved into the penknife. I was so excited. I just couldn't even believe it. Like I grabbed it and I looked at it. I touched it. I said, that's my name. That's my name. That's my name. I can't believe this. So I go to the counter and I tell the lady at the counter that, ma'am, I'm so excited. I found something with my name on it. I've never found my name in all these years of living. I've never found my name. And she was like, well, baby, I'm so excited for you. Thank you. I'm glad you found it. And I'm hoping you're having a good time here. I said, I'm having a great time here. And I said, this is the pinnacle of everything because I found my name. I paid for it. I go outside. And I heard in my spirit, I heard this. You had to come to Nashville, Tennessee, in order for you to find you. And I stopped and I looked around and I heard it again. You had to come here to Tennessee to find you. I found me. I found my name on that pocket knife. And it changed my perspective of what this trip was about. For the first time in 3 years, I felt like I had a sense of direction. Where do I go from here? Where do I go from this point that I have now found myself? I felt grounded. I felt a sense of peace. I felt a sense of belonging, but I also felt a sense of longing. Now, the sense of longing came in because now that I have found myself, now I have to define me. Well, what does that mean? Let me tell you what it means. The majority of us define ourselves by the roles we play in other people's lives. So you define yourself as being a parent, a spouse, a child, a mentor. You may define yourself by your occupation. I'm a teacher. I am a policeman. I'm a lawyer. I'm a custodian. I'm a chef. Whatever it is. But those roles don't necessarily define you. If you were stripped of all of those titles as it pertains to other people's lives, what are you left with? How do you define you? How do you look at yourself and say to yourself, this is who I am? Now, just because you live in your body does not mean that you know everything about your body. Does not mean you know everything about you. So again, I ask the question, how do you define you outside of the titles that you have and the roles that you have in other people's lives? That was my next step in my journey, was now that I have found me, I have to define me. And let me let you know something. That was not an easy thing to do. It was not. Because again, we think that because we live in ourselves, we know everything we need to know about ourselves. So it should be easy to define who we are. It's not when you really sit back and think about it. So you have to really think about it. And I want to give you the fuel and the ammunition that you need now so that you can sit back and think about it. If you had to define yourself for someone else, how would you define yourself? What would be your denotation of you? See, words have two meanings. There's the denotation, which is the meaning in the dictionary. There's the connotation, which is how the word makes you feel. So I'll give you an example. The word conflict, the denotation of the word conflict is just that two people don't have the same idea and they disagree. That's the denotation. The connotation of the word conflict, how we feel about the word, is that most people have a negative connotation of the word conflict. So when they hear the word conflict, their feeling about conflict, it's going to be negative, it's going to be adversarial, and it's going to be unpleasant. Now, let's go back. When you define you, when you use words to define you, what is the denotation of that word? And what is the connotation of that word? So I can easily say for myself, I'm a man. Okay, so the denotation of that word is I define myself as a man based upon things that the dictionary would say makes me a man. The connotation of me being a man could be something totally different for everybody. So provider, worker, breadwinner, nurturer, whatever it is that I see myself being. So I had to take time to define me outside of the roles and titles that I have in other people's lives. Somebody needs to get this. You are more than your title. You are more than just a. Now, don't get me wrong. The titles that you have in your life are important. The roles that you play in other people's lives are very important. But what role do you play in your own life? When you sit back and you don't have the titles, you don't have the roles, who are you? Most people are not equipped to figure that out because they don't know what they may find. And because they don't know what they may find, they avoid the question. They avoid the subject. And mind you, you're having this conversation with yourself. You're not having this with somebody else. So you're avoiding you because you don't want to define you. But who are you? Who are you when you sit back and think about it? Who are you? What makes you you? Without using your roles in other people's lives, who are you? So I had to define myself. I am a motivational speaker. I am nurturing. I am compassionate. I am passionate. I am gifted. I am talented. I am confident. What are those things that you are? I love the things that I do, but the things that I do are based upon the things that I am. Ha! Do you get that? The things that you do are based upon the things that you are. So, because I am those things, that's what allows me to be a life coach. That's what allows me to be a motivational speaker. That's what allows me to be a radio host. That's what allows me to be a counselor. That's what allows me to be a teacher. That's what allows me to be a confidant. But I had to define who I am so I could figure out why I am. So who are you when you define you? Take your roles out of it. Take the roles that you play for other people out of it and ask yourself, at my core, when I lay down at night and I have to think about who I am, what would I say? Who am I really? Deep down, who am I? And define yourself. But again, there's some people before they go into defining themselves, they need to find themselves. They're walking around lost, and they're lost in the roles that they play in other people's lives. They're lost in the roles that they play in their jobs. They're lost in expectations from other people. They're lost in trying to please other people. They're lost in all of that. And in the midst of all of that, they don't know who they are. They don't know where they are. They're just spinning around like they're in a cyclone, just spinning around trying to make sure that everybody else is okay, but they're not okay. So in order to find you, you got to stop spinning long enough to plant your feet and say, this is where I am right now, and own the way that you feel. I'm frustrated, I'm mad, I'm angry, I'm confused, I'm hurt, I'm whatever. Just define it for what it is for at that point when you find yourself. I found myself here, and this is the way I feel. Now, take the next step and define who you are. Define who you are. Don't ask people. That's the key right there. Don't ask people. When you think about me, what do you think about me? Because then you're going to start living up to other people's definitions and their expectations of you. I didn't ask you to ask other people, define you. I asked you to define you. Because see, once you define you, then you can do the next thing that we're going to talk about next week. And I'm not going to tell you what that is right now. That's just a little teaser so that you can figure out what he's going to talk about next week. What I need to do now that I have found me and I've defined me. What do I need to do next? You'll find out next week. But I need you this week to find yourself. Where are you right now? Where are you? And I don't mean that from a physical standpoint. I mean that from a psychological standpoint. Okay? Where are you? Find yourself. And now that you found yourself, how do you define yourself? Take your roles out of it. Don't tell, well, I'm a father, I'm a mother, I'm a daughter, I'm a son. Take your roles out of it. And what do you say about you at your core? Are you a musician? Are you an artist? Are you a dancer? Are you a nurturer? What are you at your core? What are you? A lot of times people don't want to define themselves because some of the words that we may use have negative denotations and negative connotations. Suppose in your definition of you, you find out that you're a difficult person. Suppose in your defining you, you find out that you can be jealous. Suppose in your definition, you find out that you can be petty. But you can't fix what you won't face. So if you find out the negative things about you and you define you, then you'll be able to figure out how you can address those things. I had to do it. I had to figure out the negative things in me. Was it easy? No. Am I going to tell you what those negative things were? No. I'm not telling you. I don't need to. Not at this point. I'll tell you later. But right now, I ain't going to tell you nothing. But I can tell you this. Did I find negative things when I started defining me? Absolutely. Was it more than one? Yeah, it was more than one. It might have been more than 6. It might have been 10. Might have been more than that. But we'll talk about that later. Again, we'll talk about that later. But at right now, I just want you to understand, yes, in defining me, I had to define the great things about me and the not so great things about me. You can't be afraid of who you are. You can't be afraid of what you bring to the table. You can't be afraid of what's inside of you. Because how can you live authentically and live loud if you won't acknowledge all of you? But you can't acknowledge all of you if you are not willing to define you. If you're not willing to sit back and figure out what is it that is me? What is it that's me? This doesn't have title. This doesn't have role. This is me talking about me. And I'm going to say it again. Most people have not taken that journey to define themselves, which is why they treat people the way they treat people. It's why they treat themselves the way they treat themselves, because they do not truly know who they are. And because they truly don't know who they are, they don't know how to act. So they just act out. They're not acting, they're acting out because they don't know who they are. They don't know where they are. So find yourself. And once you find yourself, define yourself. Does that make sense? Define you. Who are you outside of the roles you play in other people's lives? Who are you outside of the things that people say you are? Because everything that somebody says about you does not make it true. Just because they say this about you does not make it so. Because their perspective is based on their experience or through the filter that they see you through or the filter they feel you through. So you can't use their definition of you as your definition of you. Remember, last week we talking about your own narrative, where this is your own definition, because this is a journey into self-discovery, self-actualization, self-realization, self-identity. So define who you are. Find where you are right now, and then define you with no help from anybody else, just you. I hope that made sense. I hope that helped you. I hope that this will be the beginning of you being able to move into the next step. So now you got a whole week to define you, so that when we move into the next step, you'll be okay. And we'll be on this journey together. Don't be afraid. This is why we're here, okay? I love you. Ain't a thing you can do about it but love me back. That's all you can do. In the coming weeks, I will give you my contact information so that you can reach out to me, so we can have discussion and we can talk more about you on a one-on-one basis. But stay tuned. This is the Loud Life Show with Alvin Folks. I've enjoyed being here with you today. God bless you. Have a wonderful week, and I'll see you next week. Take care.